think.
Yeah, please clap your hands.
Okay.
Not only am I a thinking being as I travel through the world, but also I'm an electrical being, and so the visualizations in my peripheral vision were reminders that my brain is sparking off and firing kind of electrical signals all the time. That's what it made me think about. I also, however, felt confused by what you were saying to me, because while on the one hand you're telling me that my brain's electrical and it's, you know, it's alive in this way, I also had to resolve the overlaid sort of booming coming in and out image, which was never ever still. So it meant that the brain was constantly being provoked into excitement, and it was quite hard to be in that place for that amount of time, because also I'm being surrounded by a whole pile of sounds which are also and then in the soundtrack there's some synthesis and some music, so basically you're giving me everything. The thing I get from that is that possibly you're just saying that that's what the city's like, it gives you everything. When you actually physically do that, it actually makes it quite hard to see multiple things at the same time. In fact, you see noise and you don't see anything. You see all things.
Yeah.
So Calvino, when he's writing, he doesn't say all things all at the same time. He says that there are lots of things at the same time. But rarely does a paragraph have 10 different things all at once. Happening simultaneously, but that's what you've done. You've given us all these things simultaneously, without making us like see, okay, here's one thing, by the way there's also this other thing, so that we can experience those in a linear way.
I can see his point. It seems like you've got the framework in place now, and there's still a piece waiting to be made with that framework. It's sort of maybe something that's less constantly paced. It was the rate of change in all modalities was pretty constant all the way through, and pretty dense. So the video was generally moving quite quickly, and sound was doing its thing. And then you're kind of being bombarded by these changing visualizations. And maybe if at times stuff just sits for a little bit and lets you focus on one particular thing for a little while. That would help just kind of ground us and soak into what's going on. So maybe actually if, which would be harder to manage I guess, but if they came centre occasionally and the footage went peripheral, then it'd make them talk to each other a bit more, you know what I mean? They're kind of just there for the most part. And I guess when you do critically reflect on the stuff that you've got, one of the questions with this EEG stuff, particularly where you've got these putative mappings to emotions, is trying to work out, is there really excitement or frustration happening there, or is it just noise? Now one could be quite scientific and look at sort of the amount of variance in the data and work out whether you are actually getting signals through that, or whether it's just basically a noisy signal. We can try and correlate it to what's coming through. So
it's interesting. I had to look back at the sheet to realise what I was looking at in terms of the understanding of it. I think because you're presenting it without this and saying to people, experiencing it first is something to consider. I think in terms of the presentation, sonically I felt very overwhelmed, and which is a good thing, but I needed the image to be bigger. I think if the image had been presented on one of the, our big 80-inch TV, then the sound would have been just about right for it. I think in terms of a presentation perspective, the level of the sound is far too big for the size of the screen. The video work and the sound work were interesting. I found it really distracting to have the processing visuals, or however they were built, at the side. For me, while they were impressive, they felt completely disconnected from what I was actually seeing on the main screen, and that I wasn't quite sure how they related either to the actual data itself, and I would look to find a way to incorporate that material inside of the main video itself,
Okay.
so that you're seeing both things at once in an integrated way.
Okay.
So I think overall it's a really interesting project.
I think it's really intriguing. When I was looking at it, I was thinking, it's a really interesting thing for me to sit and experience, because I've lived in Edinburgh for a very long time now. So my associations of all the areas that you visited are possibly slightly different to someone who's only been here for about 6 or 8 months, because I associate particularly the Writers' Close area, all that area, with kind of winters in Edinburgh and kind of snow on the streets and stuff like that. So it's an interesting thing for me. So I like the feeling of how the central video and the sound work together. I was saying actually when I came out, I think there's some very good effective sequences within it. As a fixed media piece, I think that works really well. The processing, I wasn't quite convinced by that. And the reason for that is a couple of reasons. It's quite brightly coloured, and it's very defined, sharp edges to what you see a lot of the time. For me, it was actually most effective where I kind of was aware it was happening on the side, but I wasn't really looking at it, so it kind of blurred out. It became much more amorphous and abstract, and actually that felt uncomfortable in a way. At the moment, your two side screens are showing exactly the same image. I really wanted about halfway through to flip one of the images horizontally. So if something is coming down from, say, the top left down to the bottom right on one screen, I'd really like the other screen to go from the opposite way, so it would go down like that. It would be nice to just have that running for, it's a 5-minute piece. I wouldn't if we've only had 3 or 4 processing themes happening, and just give them time to develop, so that they then become part of the background and mesh in towards the rest. Because if you're constantly changing it, then something changes and you look at it and then you lose the thread of the central thing.
I really liked it. I thought the soundscape was quite nice. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but I quite liked the way the two screens either side of the main screen just sat near peripheral vision. I kind of thought that was quite. It was more interesting having them there than having them as the focus.
I feel like the video in combination with the sound made me feel like I'm being chased, because there are some moments in the transition of the images where it's kind of blurred, so it has this kind of horror feeling to it, and the sound at some points it was kind of sinister, kind of like in games. So, and also the colors you use, like sometimes it's black and white and sometimes it's colorful. There's color, also kind of made it feel like I'm this person walking down Edinburgh streets and I feel dizzy or something. I really like the side screens. I don't know if it's processing.
It's processing.
Yeah, I really like that part. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Kind of adds to the background.
The most impressive thing is the sound. It's so realistic. I almost feel people around me, and this from here to this side, I can feel they are just around me. So yeah, that's the most impressive part.
I thought it was very engaging. I felt that there's a lot of very good video work, some nice ghosting effects, some really good sound design, and a lot of the video animation was really good. I found it, I guess it was slightly odd in that my emotional response to those places, because I've been around there, I know them well, is probably not the same as the person's response who was actually doing the walk. So there was a bit of a sort of disconnect there, I felt. But then once I'd kind of settled into that and thought, well, this is someone else's point of view of the same thing, then once I kind of accepted that, I guess it was working better for me. I thought in some areas, although most of the time it was all kind of you could sort of see the emotional states being reflected in all the different aspects of it. There were times where I felt there was a little bit of a disconnect between the sort of the sound, the video, and the graphic images. Some of them seemed to be a lot sort of lighter and calmer than others, which were a bit more intense. So I didn't feel they always worked together, but it was really interesting. And
you can see beautiful or interesting visualization of processing on the side, and I can see real landscape on the center, so I can see both emotional aspects and realistic physical aspects in the same time.
And I really like the sound part. Makes me feel like I'm actually in that thing, in that street. And I like the processing part with the virtual part as well. It's just maybe too many variations making me feel a little bit confused, because I think there are at least 6 or 7 variations of the processing data. Maybe that's what you guys want. You want different things. But yeah, I just feel a little bit too much.
I think what I'd have to do going into it again is make sure I knew what color represented what. I know you went over it, but when I was watching, I didn't want to look back at the paper again to see it. So I'd have to refamiliarize myself with that. But I felt, because of how successfully that the emotions were processed, that it was really effective.